Hello, welcome in. If you're here listening to this podcast, that means you are destined for something great, and we both know it to be true. So without further ado, welcome to the Dark Matter Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Dark Matter Podcast. Dev here. And today's guest is someone whose work hits that sweet intersection between creativity, consciousness, and real world impact. Sarah Ashley is a multi-passionate content creator, writer, and entrepreneur based in Florida. And she's one of those rare people who can make storytelling feel like a portal into what's possible. She's the founder of Portal Copy Co., a copywriting agency dedicated to helping brands unlock and express the truth of who they are. Through her writing, her content, and her presence online, Sarah inspires fellow dreamers and doers to live a life without limits, not just in theory, but in practice. Her work blends personal development, spiritual development, and digital storytelling in a way that feels real, relatable, and genuinely transformative. Super excited for this year conversation. So without further ado, let's step into the story behind the storyteller. Welcome to the show, Sarah Ashley.
Thank you. Wow, what an intro. I don't know. That's a lot to live up to. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
That's what we do here. We set the standard. So
Yeah, setting the stage.
you talk a lot about living a life without limits. So, what was the
hmm
first limit you personally had to break that made that message real for you?
Oh, I do talk a lot about living a life without limits in the sense of not feeling confined by the life that you're currently in. I'm really passionate about helping people understand that they can live a better life and understand that they can like break out of whatever situation they may feel confined in. Like there is a better, life for you that is waiting. Even if you feel like now is your best life, there's probably something even better waiting and you have no idea. Um, ran into some limits. I've ran into limits throughout my whole life, right? Like I think we all have, but something that has kind of stuck with me for a while is perfectionism. And I don't want to say perfectionism is a limit because it can be whatever you want it to be, right? It can be a tool, it can be something that actually helps you grow, and it can be a great thing, or it can be limiting. Um, for me, I think that is something that I still deal with today, that it can feel limiting, but it was like that first sort of challenge in my life that I was like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. I can see how this is, harming me in my day to day. I'm not using it as a tool. It's definitely something that I need to get over and just or try to like make work for myself and like figure out why I'm being a perfectionist. Um, yeah, if that makes sense. Like
It
just the
absolutely
idea of
does.
perfectionism, yeah, as a limit.
Well, where did it come up for you the most? Like, were you at a 9 to 5? Like, were you at your job? Was it when you were starting your business? Like, where did perfectionism really start to come up so you can start to identify, like, hey, this is something that keeps coming up and maybe is preventing me from, really moving forward the way that I want to or the way that I think about.
Definitely starting my business.
Mhm.
That was the first moment where I was like, wow, I think I am a perfectionist. Like I never thought I was a perfectionist before I started my business. I would actually tell myself that I wasn't a perfectionist. And then I started getting into situations where I needed to make very quick decisions and I needed to make decisions that maybe were just unknown. Like whenever you're starting a business, you have to make a lot of decisions where the result is unknown.
Mhm.
And so that started happening. I'm like, wow, I have a lot of fear around this. I need to do a lot of work. And maybe I am a perfectionist. I've been lying to myself this whole time. I am actually struggling because I couldn't make those decisions very quickly. It was very difficult for me to try new things because I wanted to know the outcome before I even did the thing.
Mhm.
And, honestly, that's still something that I struggle with today to a degree, but I have the tools and the knowledge to help me sort of talk myself out of it, out of that like perfectionist spiral. Um, but yeah, definitely with making business decisions.
Mm,
Because you have to make quick decisions and you have to make decisions where you don't know what's going to happen. That's just part of it. That's a non-negotiable.
right.
So it's if you want to be able to make the best decisions for your business and just for yourself, and whatever venture you're in, whether you're creative, you're just starting a new project or something, like you don't know what the outcome is going to be, and that's okay. And like telling yourself that's okay is part of that healing process and just part of that journey and just becoming a better entrepreneur, creative, whatever. Is
Mm.
being okay with just doing something and not having an outcome like in mind.
And
Fear,
it's
release expectations.
right. Well,
Yeah.
it's true because there's a lot of people that are entrepreneurs that are trying to go into that line of work or that new career path, and maybe they hesitate to post a piece of content or a photo because they feel like, oh well, what will people think, or I don't like this, or I don't like the way that it goes. So when it came up for you, was it specifically, and then we can move on to the next topic, but I do really want to know, was it when it, because I know you mentioned in the decision making, but was it also in like the content creation? Was it when you were showing up? Was it, in sales calls? Like where did it specifically show up? Because now, founding an agency and really moving things into the right direction, it's really, I think, key for the listener to understand that you can still, like, they could be where you were when you started and still create success online.
Yeah. It definitely experienced it creating social media at first. I've definitely gotten better about showing up online and like just the visibility component. But when I first started being more active online and deciding that I was going to, share more of my life, I also do just personal content creation, like lifestyle content and vlogs and things like that, just separate from what I'm doing with Portal Copy Code. But yeah, it was definitely a situation where I had to talk myself down from, you know, the spiral, talk myself down from like not posting because of that fear of visibility. So yeah, that came up a little bit. And also just fear of how are people going to perceive me, um, fear of also being limited by what I was posting. Um, so I don't want to say fearing a niche, but I really had to get over the fact that what I was posting, I had to understand that just because I was posting a certain type of content did not mean that limited me forever. Maybe it got me into a niche for a moment, or maybe it helped me focus on a particular, topic for a moment. But I had to understand that I had the power to change that if I wanted. Um, and in essence, like over time, it doesn't limit yourself. Like you have the power to change, like what you post, what you create, how you want to show up online. It's not like you're putting something out into the internet or putting something out on social media and it's like that's who you are forever. That's not really the case. And in my mind at the time, that's kind of what I thought. And I had to really like do a lot of like, again, going back to the perfectionism, like wanting to know the outcome, wanting to, know how I was going to be perceived and like what niche I was going to fall in, like all these different little things that come up, all these different thoughts and worries. But yeah, that was definitely something I struggled with at first. I now on my personal social media, I have to be strategic about it, of course, and like with any social media, you have to be strategic. But yeah, again, I think it's really just a lot of self-talk and telling yourself like you can change. It's not permanent. Like don't get in your head about it because I do that. I tend to do that sometimes too.
I think a lot of people do that. And one other
Yeah.
thing that's always helped me too is that, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, whether it's a YouTuber or a podcaster or someone that you've seen just posting content on socials. Sometimes you find them, you relate with them, and then you watch a lot of their content. And then sometimes a couple of weeks or sometimes even months go by, you're watching the content, and then something happens and you just get pulled away. Maybe life happens, you just get pulled away,
Hmm.
and then you don't really follow them or stay as on top of it as you were before with consuming their content. But then maybe months or years later, you see them again. It's like they're in a different space and, they have a better setup and then they're more excited about things. So for me, one thing that's I've always really kept in the frame of my mind is that right now, you just got to show up and play the hand that you're dealt. And as you
Hmm.
continue to grow, you get better with this. It's kind of like paying your dues. moving it forward, right? Which is what I love because it's not a race, right? It's a marathon. It's who can continue on the longest and just keep showing up because you love to do it. So I know
Yeah.
you talk a lot about being a storyteller and you say you're a storyteller at your core. What's a part of your own story that you didn't realize was shaping your purpose until much later?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always kind of go back to my college years because when I was in college, like most early 20 somethings, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I initially went into college in the computer science field. So I was a computer scientist. I did that for like a couple of semesters and I was really struggling with myself because I thought that was what I wanted to do. I thought that was like my thing. But sort of halfway through, I'm like, man, I don't know if I really want to do this. Like, I don't know if this is for me. And again, a lot of fear came up around changing my majors because, I had already been through like a year in that field. And I just decided that I literally just made the decision. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do business because I just can't like just because I enjoy computer science and I do like the like technical aspects of it doesn't mean that's what I'm supposed to do. And that moment I really stuck with me that you can enjoy doing something, but it doesn't have to be your career. It doesn't have to be your focus. It can be a passing interest or something that you like learning about, but maybe you don't like doing. Like it doesn't have to be an end all or be all type of situation. You know what I mean? So that I transitioned into business administration and marketing and ended up graduating in with a bachelor's of business and focus in marketing. But yeah, that was such a huge change in my life. And I was like, I thought I was going to graduate in computer science, go to being a software developer, whatever, But now I'm like, looking back on that, I'm like, wow, my life would have been totally different if I had done that. I don't know if I would have ever started a business. I don't know if I ever would have really pursued my passion, which was writing. So yeah, like that decision to change my majors in college just changed the whole trajectory of my life now. And yeah, it's just crazy, weird to think, like maybe there's another version of me that is like, coding and whatnot. But yeah, this Sarah's like, I don't know about that. I'd rather be writing.
Well, I think that's a gem for all the people that are listening because that there just shows one, you started something and then there was so much fear around like what will people think? What will I do? How will I feel about switching something after a year in? But then again, that is what allowed you to propel this life that you now love, right? So I just feel like for a lot of people, whether it's a job or a relationship, sometimes people are just stuck in it and they don't realize what's possible because they've been in it or there's, tenure or whatever else excuses that we like to make, right? So I actually love that piece of your story. Thank you for sharing that because again, I think that's
Yeah,
a gem, right?
awesome.
So I guess moving into like when you're actually creating, so you're a copywriter, you have your own agency where you actually bring on clients and you do their copy. So when you're creating, I want to get into more the creative process now because I feel like this part is so fun for me when I start to really understand what creators are thinking when they go through that process. So when you're creating content for either yourself or your clients, um, what sort of thing is happening for you internally? Like, is there an intuitive process? Is there a spiritual process? Like, what is your process when you're trying to really understand the person and, create a piece of copy that really shares who they are, really evokes that essence?
Yeah, yeah. I always like to say that I am very like intuitively tapped into whoever I'm working with. So not to toot my own horn, but I can tap into the desires and needs of whoever I'm working with pretty easily, and anticipating their needs. And whether it be just spiritual or just being in the industry for so long, um, I find that that really helps, like both of us, because we're able to bounce ideas off of each other, which is a very critical part of the creative process, is just being able to ideate and have a collaborative conversation. Um, I might even just sit back and, let you rant to me or ramble, for 30 minutes. And then I'm just like taking notes and pieces of what you're saying. But yeah, just collaboration is just so important. And it's really that simple. I think just having conversations with each other. And then just the conversation and then we get into the whole formal process of like learning about your audience, learning about your goals, like what you want to achieve, like what's the point of us doing this in the first place. And I like to ask a lot of like deeper questions and like hard hitting questions to figure out like what the client actually desires. if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just collaboration is so important. And
Right.
I try not to make it like it shouldn't feel stressful to work with someone. Like it should feel like you're just talking,
Right.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, I love this, right? And I guess the question I have, intuitively guided, like, did you always have that on your compass, or is that something that you kind of learn more of, like you became aware of it, and then that's the direction you want to go? Like, how much of intuition played a role in you creating this agency and going into copywriting as your, founding agency?
Hmm. I've always been a very intuitively guided individual. Um, I would say it's part just the fact that I've always been very like tapped into my intuition and also part learning what people need because I would say in most industries, especially in like the writing industry, people's needs, there's a pattern that develops.
Mhm.
Like written 20 websites, like you notice a pattern. Like most people need the same thing, but in a different font. You know what I'm saying? Like they need a very similar thing, but in a different, different flavor. Like it becomes repetitive and then it becomes easier to anticipate what someone's going to need over time. Sometimes there's a wild card, but I would say half and half.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've always been very intuitive. I, love spirituality. It's a um just a part of something that, I carry with me throughout anything I'm doing. If I wasn't writing, I'd probably carry it with me, even as a computer scientist or something else, because it's not something that, goes away just as a spiritually guided person. It's, always there. So
Hmm.
yeah.
I love that a lot because, again, like your whole kind of story, your whole messaging is saying that no matter what situation you're in, you can get out of it. And when you really understand, I feel like this is one of your gifts, right? Your gifts is knowing that you are someone who prefers to be guided by your intuition, right? Or someone that is more, and I feel like you even have better relationships and connections with people that also appreciate intuitively guided conversations, or even people that understand like spiritual awareness and things like that. Would you agree with that? Or is that kind of like,
Yeah.
okay.
No, yeah, yeah, you're on the right track. I would agree with that. Yeah. And I do work with I work with a good mix of people, but I like to say, the my favorite people to work with are practical dreamers,
Mm,
people who are very like, intuitively aligned, creative, but also willing to like, put in the work and who like have a good like idea for what they want and desire and
mm.
yeah, that's great.
So I love this because, again, your story really talks about both the personal development aspect, but also the brand messaging. So in your experience, what's the hidden connection between knowing yourself and communicating your value to the world?
Mm. Well, how can you communicate your value to the world if you don't know yourself? Throwing it back at you.
Well, it's kind of, well, some
That's my
people
answer.
today, you know what? And this is actually going to be a great conversation. You might not be happy when it comes back to you, but here's the thing, right?
Uh-oh.
A lot of people use AI nowadays, right? So I feel like
Oh, yeah,
imposter
yeah.
syndrome is on the rise. And so, so many people that I know, and from my own experience, the people that know me, like I spent the last 3 years coaching coaches, right? And so, grew a seven-figure business, did all these things. A lot of people would get into coaching or get into something because chat told them, right? So then they go, "Hey, chat, I want to build a business today." And then chat's like, "Oh, here's all the things." And it's like, "Okay, I want to take that forward," but they don't have the experience. They don't have the skills. They don't really have a lot of the things that they know to be true. They just see it, they read it, and then they try to take it forward, right? So I feel like now more than ever, a lot of people don't genuinely, truly know themselves. They just are trying to focus on the wrong things, external factors like, money or, fame or status or power, these sorts of things that don't come internally. So, I mean, do you see that, I guess, as well? Or do you actually find there are still a lot of people that really do know themselves and aren't really battling with imposter syndrome?
That's a great question. And I feel like it's again half and half. There's a lot of people who I know who do know themselves and like, know what they want and they don't really rely on AI very much. And then on the other hand, there are some people I know who do go to AI for everything, and chat GPT, questions and try to get answers for everything. So it's a good mix of people. And I think personally, I enjoy knowing people who are on both sides of the spectrum, if you will, for AI and just this topic, because it helps me find like a good middle ground somewhere in
Mm,
between. Because I do use AI as like a thought partner, like someone to help me with ideas and to just bounce ideas off of research, compile information as a thought partner. And on the other hand, I also do take a lot of time to try to figure out who I am, learn about myself. I'm super into astrology, human design, all the things, Destiny Matrix. We could go down like a whole nother rabbit hole conversation, but I spend a lot of time in self-discovery. I think it's good to be somewhere along the middle. So you're not totally oblivious to who you are, but also to what's going on around you with the changes in technology and how you can use it as a tool.
mm,
Um, but yeah, to your point, there's a lot of people who just say, "Chat, what can I do to make money?" And they try to go about it. And if you are, using chat in that way and going about it that way, it's great if you've never been in business and you maybe just don't even know like how to start a business, what's even out there, what the opportunities are. So it's good for like, opportunity scoping, so to speak. But yeah, I think eventually those people will, find that they need to do some deeper work and like dig into it and figure out like why, what, how of everything as they're going through it.
mm.
But
Is
yeah.
that well, is that what you would suggest? Because again, like I know and on my platforms, I see a lot of people. It's like, 90 days ago they were a teacher and now all of a sudden they're a high ticket sales coach. And it's just kind of like like how? It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? I spent 2 years doing door-to-door sales and I still don't call myself that. So I just feel like we live in such a day and age where it's again, chat moves things forward. I had clients before too. It's like we're kind of moving on the same path. The next time I chat with them, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna build this app and these are the merch things and these are it's like you haven't even got your first client. Like why are you talking about building an app and doing all these things, right? So for someone who maybe is messing around with chat or really dealing with imposter syndrome too much, like what's your take on that, and maybe what would be one piece of advice that you would give to someone that's too far on that and maybe don't really know themselves and are maybe too outwardly focused?
Yeah. Man, that's like such a big topic. Like
Or
you could
projector, by the
unpack
way,
really.
yeah, yeah.
I'm a manifesting generator. Well,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of rabbit holes to go down here. I would say again, like you got to do the work to know yourself and figure out who you are. And just because you might see something like chat may tell you to start a drop shipping business. I don't know. Like say you're a teacher and it says try drop shipping. Honestly, I have tried a lot of things, honestly. And if you feel like you want to try drop shipping and you're currently a teacher or something or a swim coach, whatever, and it's totally out of left field for you to be a drop shipper,
Hmm.
just try it if feel called to, if you feel like you want to, and then it's probably going to fail and that's okay. And like, but when you do fail, that's a learning process and you're going to figure out, hey, either I love drop shipping or I hate drop shipping. Okay, what's the next thing that I might like? And in that learning process, you're going to learn more about yourself and about your interests, which will lead you closer to that, like that golden, nugget of wisdom, golden nugget of like opportunity that you've been seeking, I guess. But it just comes with, for me, it comes with trying new things.
Hmm.
Maybe you're speaking as a projector. Maybe it's not trying new things. Maybe it's like focusing in on like that one thing that you're passionate about. But
Well,
yeah,
it's interesting, and like you said, we really could go down so many different directions with this. And
yeah,
for me, I think I hate to say it like this, but it's almost like a trigger for me when I see someone who's just kind of like they're doing this, and then next week they're doing this, and then they're bringing clients in, but then they can't really fulfill on it because they don't actually know what they're doing, and it's just kind of like it kind of gives a bad rep for other people that are doing really great things. I always relate this to my door-to-door experience. Like when I did door-to-door, I sold telecom, right? So it's home phone, TV, and internet. When I knock on people's doors, you would be surprised. The biggest objection that I got was I was scammed before. And it's like, why were people out there doing this? Because now for people that are trying to do this honestly, you've really just put a little bit of a spoke in the wheel. Once I understood how to handle that, like that was fine. But I just feel like that's such a big thing. And, again, this is what's leading to a lot of misalignment in the world. Do you see that? Like, do you feel like a lot of people are kind of misaligned and there's a lot of people that are maybe kind of not living a fulfilling life? Or do you feel like no, like from what you're seeing or from your point of view, you still see that there are people that are genuinely happy, very feeling fulfilled internally and living a life full of purpose. Do you see that?
Yeah. I would love to see more people who are full of life and living life, full of purpose. But yeah, there's a lot of misalignment out there.
Mm.
And just a lot of people who are just kind of caught up in like what's going on in the world and just maybe feel overwhelmed or just feel the pressure of the world and things going on around them. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've seen, especially just in people, in my circle. People are definitely like tapped into things going on in society and just, globally and whatnot. So yeah, it's a lot of pressure, I feel like. But kind of going back to something you said a few minutes ago, I want to iterate too that like writing is something I've discovered about myself. And that's something I've been passionate about for a long time. So I might try a drop shipping business or I might try coaching or just something else. But at the core of my being, like I know that I'm passionate about writing. I know like the core things that like I'm interested in and passionate about. And that comes from self-discovery and just learning about yourself and like what you value, who you are. Um, I think it's good to try new things though and like just go out. But yeah, because you never know like what you're gonna find that you might enjoy as well that you can add to those like core interests. But
Right.
yeah, interesting.
So it is, right? Like I feel like it's kind of
Yeah.
opening up for a lot of people. And whether you're on the one side of the scale, it's like perfect confirmation that yeah, you know yourself and just keep doing what
Yeah.
lights you up and that makes you happy. And for other people on the other side of the scale, it's just kind of like, look, just try it, test it, go for it. But in it, don't be too discouraged if it doesn't go the way that you want. Like look at that as a learning experience and continue maybe peeling back the layers of the onion that we call ourselves, because sometimes in the hardships
Yeah.
and in the failures, that's where you learn the most about yourself, right? In defeat. As a soccer player
Yeah,
myself, I
exactly.
get that, right? Um, so I got a couple more questions for you, and I'm really excited for these couple of questions. So in an online world, because of course it's a digital time, we're all doing things from everywhere. You're in Florida right now, and I'm in Timmins,
Yeah.
Ontario, and we can connect, right? Like we're beside each other. But in an online world full of noise, how do you stay anchored in your voice instead of slipping into trending versions of yourself? So trying different things and doing all that.
Mm-hmm. Right. A few different paths I could go down here. So I don't know, maybe you've done this, but I have really been leaning into my astrology and my human design and like how I show up online.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've like experimented with that or
Yeah,
you're
well,
nodding your head.
it's funny because I'm the shores, but my girlfriend Jess, she's the mountains, right? So when we do content or when we look at things, it's like she very well needs to see the full picture of things, whereas for me, I can just take action on the small things. So for us, now that we're running a business together, it is very much like how does our, content shape? How should we make decisions together that really does reflect that? Because then the not self theme is bitterness, right? So then it's like if you start acting outside of yourself and doing the things that you don't want to do, then we start getting bitter, right? So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
when you know your astrology and your human design, you can make different decisions, right? Better for yourself and for your business.
Yeah. So I lean into that a lot for social media. And in leaning into that, I feel like that really puts my own like helps me like stay anchored in who I am, like on social media when I'm reflecting on my astrology, human design, and I'm not, I don't see it as like the end all be all, like this is how it is. I really view it as like a learning tool and like a self-reflection tool. But yeah, I reference that and I definitely go down rabbit holes, especially when I'm sort of going back to the drawing board like once a year maybe or like every other quarter or so throughout the year. I'll go back to the drawing board and like assess my social media and like think about what I want to post. Am I happy with what I'm posting? Like, is this me? And sort of audit my social media from that perspective. So that's something I do to help stay anchored in like what I'm posting,
Mm,
to produce more signal instead of noise.
okay.
um, and I have some content pillars that I've defined for myself, for like, especially for my personal social media channels. I do jump on some trends here and there just to like help with like quick virality, like especially on TikTok and whatever.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I lean into those content pillars and I audit them. So that's something I would suggest for listeners to do is like if you do have an active social media presence, like ask yourself like is what I'm producing now on social media still relevant to like who I want to be and who I want to be in the next, 3 to 6 months?
Mm,
And ask yourself some series of questions, do some, reflecting on it. And maybe you want to start posting about something else, and that's okay.
mm.
So yeah, audits and not constantly, but routinely and intentionally looking at your social media is really helpful to, stay anchored in what you want to produce and who you are. So
Yeah, I love that answer.
yeah.
And I preach that a lot too, just reflecting, right? And just make it a habit. Every Sunday, just reflect. And, your goals can change, your priorities can change, life can change in an instant, right? And so it's always good and it's always healthy to just make sure that you're working towards the same thing or you're doing it for the same reason. Because if you're not and it has changed, like you definitely want to shift because again, it doesn't take much for us to get out of alignment with ourselves and the things that we're doing and posting. Um, and so, once you're there,
Yeah.
it's kind of harder to get out of, but you can be very preventative with this stuff too. So, I guess with that, got a couple more questions. So, you help brands tell their story, but what's the story that you're currently stepping into in your own life and business? Like, what chapter are you writing right now for yourself?
Mm. That's a great question at this time of my life because I feel like there is a new life or a new story that is calling me. You know how whenever you feel some change about to happen, like you can see it in the distance maybe or feel it happening, but it's a little hazy and you're not sure, but like it's about to happen.
Hmm.
Is if that analogy hits, but I feel like I am in that phase of my life right now. Yeah, just personally and professionally, just both like a lot of change is probably about to happen. And I know it's coming. It's just a little hazy right now, but I mean, I welcome it. It's a little scary. But I don't know. I don't want to like talk too much about it because I don't know like what it is and like all the details, but yeah. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you feel like there's change coming, but like you're like, what's out there?
Yeah, I always relate it to the story of like, when you're growing up, you're hanging around a certain amount of friends and you're doing a certain thing, but then eventually you just get to a point where it's like, okay, like I'm done doing the things that I was doing. Maybe it's ready for that
Hmm.
new thing, but you really don't know what that new it's kind of like you're not in limbo,
Yeah,
but it kind of feels like you've done what you needed to do for that chapter, but you're not yet at the new chapter and it's still question
exactly.
marks, but it's exciting, right? It's exciting. You just don't know what it looks like yet.
Exactly. So I wish I had a great answer for that question, but I'm currently in that phase.
Well, I think
So
that is a
come back to me in three
Yeah, well, I
months.
think that is a great answer though, right? Because it's
Yeah.
again, it's inspiring. It's like, yes, like even now, even after you have your own agency and you've done a lot of personal development work, now you're still moving to new heights and who knows what that looks like yet, but it's an
Hmm.
exciting new chapter and, it's exciting. That's a really happy
Yeah.
thing to see,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely. And I am sort of I I don't know if you're like this too, but I'm I can see myself in like 30 years from now and like I see that vision that I, want for myself, but I have to not focus on it so much because it kind of like there carries like a lot of weight for like that vision. And I don't know what's going to happen between here and 30 years from now. Like a lot of things can happen.
Right.
So again, stepping into each phase, like welcoming whatever happens and like, yeah, and it kind of also goes back to that idea of perfectionism I talked about a little bit ago, like wanting to know the outcome, like wanting to know what's going to happen in 30 years. Like, what's that next phase? Like, what is it? I've just got to like release it and like let it go,
Mm.
whatever I'm stepping into now, I'm just like welcoming it. So, and I have no expectations. So,
Which is the best thing. And I was literally just talking about this last night with Jess, and I was telling her because we go back and forth on like envisioning and having a vision for like that next target or that next goal. And I was suggesting too, and she's in full agreement, but I think it's so funny that sometimes when you have a vision specifically for what you want it to look like. In some situations, it's actually good. Like if you want a specific car with a specific make and those specific things, then sure, like that makes sense because it's a specific thing, right? But sometimes, and this happens, where some people want a relationship, and so they envision this perfect girl and these traits and these things, right? But then what ends up happening is you focus so much on what you think you want that when the universe actually gives you something that's actually better for you, you almost like aren't open to those opportunities because you're so focused on this specific thing that you're trying to create from your current situation. So, yeah, I mean, opportunities are
Yeah.
really endless, right?
Yeah.
And even the vision. I know we can have a whole conversation. I mean, if I knew that you did all of this and you were in this sort of work, I mean, we probably could have taken the conversation that way, to be honest. Because I do enjoy, this kind of stuff as well. But yeah, second last question here for you. For the spiritual or intuitive entrepreneurs, what does energetic alignment actually look like in practical day-to-day applications?
Ooh. Have you, this might be another rabbit hole as well, but have you heard of chronotypes? Are you
Not off the
familiar with
top of my head.
chronotypes?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So so chronotypes are a chronotype is basically like how your body moves through the stages of sleep and wakefulness. So
Mm,
a lot of there's about I think four different types of chronotypes. You've got like the bear, wolf, dolphin, and the lion, I believe, and they all represent different stages of your energy, how your energy moves like throughout the day, depending on your sleep cycle in your stages of wakefulness and restfulness.
mm,
This might be a whole different tangent to the question you just asked me, but that's what popped in my head first. So I kind of want to run with it. But
mm,
when I learned about chronotypes, that really helped me understand my energy levels, how I could be more in alignment with my energy like throughout the day. So, for example, if you're someone who wakes up at like 5 a.m. every day, and then you get your most energy in the morning, and then you kind of wane off like around 1 o'clock or so, and you're more creative usually in the morning time around that 5 a.m., you might be more of a lion chronotype. That's just an example.
mm,
I could get really, really deep into it, but
mm,
learning about that helped me sort of unlock a new understanding about my energy, how I can work with sleep and wakefulness to be more in alignment
mm,
with how I move throughout my day. So, for example, I'm more creative in the morning. Didn't know that that was just a result of how I go to sleep and wake up. And then I tend to be, just kind of, I want to get all of my high impact work done in the morning. And then by like 1 o'clock, I'm kind of over it. I'm done. I've used all my like creative energy.
mm,
Whereas someone else that I know, for example, they get their creative energy at night and they feel the most energetically aligned at night at like 10 p.m. And I'm like, I'm asleep. So, and they're up and they're awake and they're active. Their brain is going. They're mentally, they feel really creatively aligned. Like they just feel like locked in the zone. And I'm like, I'm not like that at all. So it's
mm,
just really beautiful, like how we can all use sleep and wakefulness to help us be the most energetically like activated and aligned and use that to our advantages. Yeah, that's kind of like a whole different
mm.
path you probably didn't expect me to go down.
Well, but I do think it's interesting because now for the people that are listening, I think this is right up their alley. And so for the people that may not know this, it could be useful and helpful because yeah, I mean, I used to think it was the coffee that we were drinking that we would crash all the time, right? But then even when we weren't drinking coffee, we would still crash. So then it's kind of like, okay, now you're starting to understand it. And it doesn't have to be you're just tired. Like there could be some spiritual energetics
Yeah.
behind it. And I think once you learn how to harness that, I think you really can be unstoppable, right?
Yeah, and it's definitely leaning towards more like scientific, but I'm the type of person I believe like science and spirituality go hand in hand. Like I think science can help explain spirituality and spirituality can help, back up science and vice versa. I think it's one and the same, honestly, especially when you get into like, quantum physics and things like that. But
Right.
yeah, in terms of more like feeling energetically aligned, like you feel like you're in your purpose, like you feel rooted in like what you're doing, like from a more like metaphysical stance or just more like that inner sense of groundedness and knowing like for me again it just honestly just all goes back to like reflection, like building in reflection in your day to day in different ways. Like you don't have to just sit down and like stare at a wall and like reflect and think. Like that's the most boring way to reflect. But like journaling or just going for a walk or like opening your notes app on your phone while you're going and doing something outside, or even while you're cooking, you could be reflecting on something. Um, yeah, there's so many different ways to like reflect and, you know, tap into what's going on in your inner world. And it, whenever you're doing that, it creates opportunities for you to sort of check and determine if you're energetically aligned or not. And that just spark a whole nother chain of ideas. So it's just so important to reflect.
Right. No, I
Yeah.
love that. And again, golden gem for those that are listening, because I think this is another one of those pieces that when you really understand that a lot of the answers that we're looking for come internally, and I think it really is finding that, uh, the motivation to do it. Because I feel like sometimes we're not motivated to do the work internally, right? It's just more of like chasing the next thing. But I think there is a lot of, really fantastic benefits that come from looking internally, right? So,
Yeah.
I love this conversation, Sarah, Ashley. Thank you so much for being on. For
Thank
people
you.
that want to learn more about, what you're up to and things like that, where can they find you?
Yeah. You can find me on social media for my business at Portal Copy Co. Portalcopy Co. And then personally, I'm Sarah E. Ashley, Sarah with a H, E. Ashley, on most social medias. I'm primarily on TikTok and Instagram. And then I also have, my websites and everything linked in my bios. So you can find me on pretty much wherever you are.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And of course, for the viewers, all the links to connect with Sarah will be down below. All of my links, as always, will be down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, share, subscribe to it all. You know I appreciate it. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.